It's a fact you're not here. You ain't even real, but you still bring me fear. You make my bones so tired that my soul stands up. But now I'm starting to need to bleed to fill this cup. It's like I'm starting to need to bleed to fill this cup. Oh.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to The Working Wing, the show where we just try to make sense of what is going on in the world through a working leftist perspective. My name is Tim Schultz, and joining me, as always, a man who makes, let me see here, a man who makes, God, I should have prepared this before. You know what? You kind of just make Ron Johnson look like Mandela Barnes, or Mandela Barnes look like Ron Johnson.
What?
I know. I'm sorry. I was put on the spot there. All right, that's not fair. You are anything but a moderate.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about like Mandela Barnes and like why he might have lost by like a little bit, like that whole kind of going for wine moms thing. But like, hey, it got him halfway. It got him close. Like it just wasn't quite enough to beat Ron Johnson.
It wasn't quite enough to beat Ron Johnson, and so like the analysis I read about that was kind of interesting, where basically one analyst I read made the point that both Tim Michaels and Mandela Barnes were really hit hard on being too extreme, and neither of them really bothered to push back against that.
No, they kind of just tried to focus more on them. That was really most of the rebuttal.
So yeah, people and like that is just a problem that I don't get why the Democrats haven't figured out a strategy. They have been getting beat on the head for being soft on crime for decades. Like basically our entire lifetimes and beyond. That has been like a cudgel that Republicans in tight spots can use to beat up on Democrats.
But even when they go harder on crime, which they end up like pushing the whole window for, I guess, the society as a whole in doing so, they still get called out on like being soft on crime.
They do.
Like, I mean, and because the thing is, like, things that like Mandela Barnes supports, like, wanting to like have more reasonable cash bail, but of course not for like a recidivist criminal, like violent criminal like Darrell Brooks. That's all like Ron Johnson was doing in like Waukesha, is just like, we'll just show the parade footage and just run that around, horrifying. But it's also just like, yeah, but that whole bail system isn't for someone like that. Like that's a problem where like the system failed. Like a guy was getting out on bail like constantly for being a violent person. And it's like, yeah, I think we can all kind of agree on this as a society that like bail should be, or there should be ways around keeping a man like who is like a violent recidivist, like, in prison, like, at least in jail so they can face their trial. And they don't like go out and do more violent shit. That's what that comes down to. And that's like a fucking reasonable on crime thing, and not like trying to just like, I'm going to lock up the whole population for,
right.
Cheap labor for private prisons.
But it's just like, they haven't figured out how to boil that down into something that is easily digestible by like moderates in the Oshkosh area.
Yeah. Yeah, or are you talking about the Outagamie, Oshkosh area?
Yeah, Outagamie, Oshkosh area.
Yeah, it's that area's always been a little conservative. It just with kind of split with the liberals that are spread out through that too. But
yeah,
it's always,
they've done a really good job of gerrymandering. They took away Racine recently. Like it's every time we have one of these elections too, I just get really frustrated because like Wisconsin is so fucked. We're sitting here celebrating that at least the Republicans did not gain a supermajority in the state house.
Yeah.
That's something to be celebrated. That's something that they were hoping to do. And it really kind of feels like, all right, abortion was not the big single issue driver that the Democrats hoped it would be, but it did have an effect.
It did have an effect, but
it had an effect, especially on gubernatorial races, more so than like the Senate and House races. But like, if you look at what pollers who came out for Evers were saying, they were saying they don't want money going to private schools. They want money going to public schools and more of it. They're saying they don't want this. They don't want this total abortion ban. They want the right now. The Johnson administration is suing. Basically, I think they're basically suing the legislature. Those guys sue each other a lot.
Yeah,
Johnson and the legislature, but he's suing to try to get that abortion ban overturned in the courts.
Yeah.
And Michaels was just and like the scary thing is that if they hadn't run a like bombastic but ignorant, inexperienced sex criminal, they probably would have taken this one.
Yeah, they could have.
This is one of those situations where we are bailed out by the fact that the Republicans just choose bad candidates.
Well, yeah, I mean, for them, Scott Walker was a great candidate. Like, like that. That's the problem.
And I think they kind of looked at Evers as like, oh yeah, this is just Scott Walker Jr. This is the next Scott Walker.
I mean, that you think that's how the Republicans are viewing Evers?
No, not Evers. Michaels. Yeah.
Okay. I was like, yeah, no. I can. Yeah, I kind of continuation of the Walker era, but it's like he's not a loser yet because of course Republicans they hate the losers, which are like everybody.
Yeah. So on that stuff, abortion, education, that went for Democrats in Wisconsin. The thing that both in Wisconsin and nationwide went against the Democrats is the economy. And in some ways, that's always going to be the case. Like I hadn't even realized that it was this drastic, but there are actually only two instances since World War II where a president hasn't lost, where Congress hasn't flipped in the middle of a presidential term. It's just the way it works. And those two were like Clinton in '98 and then Bush in 06.
Oh yeah, so in our lifetime too. So like that's crazy. Yeah, I was looking at a 538 poll.
Oh no, actually that might have been Bush in 02. 02, I think. Yeah,
I was looking at a bunch of like a Biden approval polls, and it compared to other presidents.
No, like going by Biden's approval and where inflation is at, this should have been a massacre for the Republicans. This should have been a giant red wave, and it was not. And that I think comes down to people are tired of this like fundy bullshit culture war nonsense.
I think they are.
People really were turned off by the whole abortion thing from the Republicans, and yeah, they're sick of the culture war nonsense, and that goes on both sides. People are turned off when the Republicans start railing about the culture war, and they're turned off when Democrats yell at them for not being woke enough.
Yeah, that's all the culture war. I mean, it's all just like holding each other to another standard that like you're not virtuous. I mean, and it used to kind of be a lot more like Republicans used to just try to hold that morality thing, even though it used to just be like the whole Falwell thing, where it's like you're not as virtuous as I am, ripping off all these people with all my money. You're not as pious as I am, really. Like, that whole fake bullshit. But it's something that's different than that, but it's something that, it's a similar type of like morality police type of thing, where it's like oh, I can point to you and you're not that, even though we're not trying to follow those rules as a group either. We're trying to use it when it's appropriate as a political tool.
Yeah.
So it doesn't end up meaning anything in the end. Like,
no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So
that's a point we're at now, is that those weapons, like,
well, and like Democrats, I feel like the mainstream neoliberal core of the establishment just seized on the whole woke stuff to get young people out to vote in lieu of actually making progressive changes. In this country,
they don't want to focus on economics.
Right.
They don't want to focus.
They do not want people focusing on which is why they have always been like Biden can't spell out a plan for inflation, because the plan for inflation is we'll just drive up interest rates until unemployment increases.
Yeah.
Their plan to fight inflation is just, we need to force businesses to lay off workers so that there are more working class people who are unemployed, so that inflation will drop.
And short term austerity. The same thing.
Short term is austerity. Long term is working class people losing their jobs.
Yes. So
they need to deflate. They need, like, the biggest driver of inflation is not anything that's happening in Ukraine right now. The biggest driver of inflation was the Great Resignation, and how average wages have skyrocketed. Not enough, but just anecdotally, like here in Wisconsin, average wages for blue collar labor have skyrocketed over just the past 2 years since the pandemic started.
I mean, I'm not sure about that's just like the wages have an increase that's caused like that need that's caused all that inflation. I'm not sure about that. I mean, there was a lot of spending during the pandemic too. That was like
there was
that was a blank check, and honestly, that and what we're giving to Ukraine now, that still is like all of like that is all still burning to turn. Like that still is. I mean, granted, the Ukraine
I mean, what we're giving to Ukraine is like a drop in the bucket compared to what we spent on the pandemic.
I know it's like a 5% military thing. It's like it still is like it's part of the military plunder that we
that's a whole conversation. That's a whole conversation.
It's a part of that void, but it's still a part of it, and it's still a part of the spending that like we had done like as a part of pandemic, and like just the businesses putting their like.
Well, and the other thing is that a lot of the inflation is artificially created by businesses, because if there's a perception that prices are going to go up, businesses take advantage of that to raise prices for reasons that have nothing to do with anything about their supply or the material conditions of their business.
And the president can do things like have like
price gouging, but the thing that the neoliberals don't want to do that because they're the ones making money off of that shit.
Yes. No, this is the whole fucking thing where it's like, it's like you just need a government that's just willing to do the right thing.
Right. Like Nancy Pelosi is not going to champion an anti-price gouging thing, because that might hurt some of the corporations that she's invested in.
No. You hear me, Social Democrat? She ain't gonna do it. None of them are gonna do it. Anyone in Congress at this point ain't gonna fucking just do it by themselves. Like I wish they would. I wish in my heart they would. I don't think they're not gonna. No. They ain't gonna do it, dude. Like even Bernie Sanders, you give him the choice to do it, he's gonna hold that pen. He's gonna
Bernie's rich now, man. It's over for Bernie.
Yeah, bro. Like, no, you kidding me, bro?
Bernie's got an investment portfolio to think about now.
Dude, as soon as he was the first socialist senator in America, as soon as there's that,
as soon as his
He's in the
second book
Senate.
deal gave him like $3 million. It's like, oh no. It's
Oh, I'm
over.
saying as soon as he's in the Senate already, it's like, yeah, you're already on the path to being over. Like, sorry, like
Yeah.
it might just be that, but poor Bernard. But anyway, yeah, it's been a something. I mean, the House gonna go. House
Yeah,
gonna,
the House is going to fall into Republican control.
Mhm.
But one bright spot there is that they're going to have a very narrow majority.
No, it's
It looks like it'll be harder to wrangle everyone to do their typical self-destructive, like let's shut down the government bullshit.
it's basically going to be like what like the Democrats were able to do for the last 2 years of Trump.
Yeah,
it's pretty much that. It's pretty much
they're gonna open investigations on every single person in the Biden administration. They're gonna splash Hunter Biden's name in the headlines a whole bunch.
They're going to care about like drug reform without doing anything about it. I mean, like that's like a whole thing. That's like, yeah, I'd love to just like wring his head, like name through the mud, just to be like, well, let's actually treat people like with drug problems well. I mean, because the whole idea of like being sympathetic to like Hunter Biden is like, well, yeah, he's a drug addict. You can't just be mean to him like that. It's like, dude, our society is like full of sick people who we treat like that. We treat like shit like that every fucking day. And you're asking me to like care about Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, because he's the fucking president's son. Like, fuck.
Well, no, I just wish honestly that I never want to hear Hunter Biden's name again, because he is completely and entirely irrelevant to any matter of public policy or public life whatsoever. I do not give a shit.
Why wasn't he on the energy board in Ukraine then? Like he has know nothing about that. Like, what's he doing there? Like, like right? Like that's I think probably will probably be like bringing that back up again, but like.
What's the conspiracy? I've never even heard. All right, so Hunter Biden was on the energy board of Ukraine. What does that mean? What power did he have? And like, what is corrupt about that?
What does he know about like running an energy company in Ukraine?
I don't know. I honestly don't know anything about the guy. Did he have an engineering background? I'm sure he went to like business school or something. They all go to business school.
So what does he know about like Ukraine? like him as an American, as like, you know, like as the VP son who like had like, you know, like he's not like, I'm not trying to say he's like any type, like that's the thing you're kind of basing these things like off of like, well, like what, yeah, he's probably like a bit smart businessman. He just like, you know, went to business school who, you know,
well, I would say he has an MBA. I don't think any businessman is really smart, because I don't think being in business is actually that hard.
Right.
More about luck than anything.
Well, either way, Tim, the Republicans are I'm sure going to give you lots of stories about it.
Yes, they are. We're going to be hearing a whole bunch.
Yeah.
In this fucking laptop.
Yeah.
One thing we haven't heard is I haven't heard any big lie talk.
Oh, any like the election was stolen.
Yeah, I would have.
The results aren't in yet. That's the thing. They're not all in yet, so people aren't like ready to call great theory about it. I don't think. Like once the runoff happen, I think the runoff is going to be highly contested.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the runoff's
probably gonna. We might well lose the runoff.
Yeah, no, it's very possible that it's like,
because like 1%, 2% of people in Georgia voted for the Libertarian candidate there.
Yeah.
And that's more than enough to swing the next election.
Yep. So, right. So we're gonna see how all that goes. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's that whole exciting thing where the election. It's not an election day. It's an election week. It's an election like, you know, maybe 10 days.
Yeah. No, it gets tiresome. It does.
Especially with like Nevada. It's just like, what the fuck?
What the fuck takes so long in Nevada? Like every time. It was like this the last time. What the fuck, Nevada?
Like we didn't hear
nothing. Get out of the casino, all right? Put down the cigarette, put down the drink, all right? Go count some fucking ballots.
What's wrong with you guys?
What's wrong with you? And slot machine will still be there.
I don't know. It could be a lot of things. Could be a lot of things. Could be people have to like, you know, get, you know, they allow a couple days to get their ballots in by horse or something.
One encouraging thing that me and Alex were actually talking about is that if you look at the results in my district, the Wisconsin First, which is like Kenosha, Janesville, Ann Rowe lost, but she lost 45 to 55.
So let's
Lost by about
10 points.
30,000 votes, which that is the best result a Democrat has had for that seat in the entire time I've been living here, certainly. For anyone who might see this eventually who doesn't know, the Wisconsin First was the home district of former Speaker of the House Paul Ryan, who resigned his office in 2016 so that he could run as Mitt Romney's running mate. And he chose not to keep his congressional seat. So then in 2018, there was a big push, a huge Democratic push to try to capture that seat. And it failed.
With Randy Bryce.
But like with all that resources, yeah, Randy Bryce, a local steel union, a local union man.
Yeah.
From here in Kenosha. But like he had serious Democratic backing. Like Bernie Sanders came out to campaign with him. And he ended up losing that race 43 to 57. So this time there was no resources whatsoever put into this race. Ann Rowe had no visibility whatsoever. No one came to campaign here. I don't think even like Mandela Barnes ever came to campaign here. And she actually did really well. And I part of me wants to hope that is a sign of progress here in Kenosha. And part of me wants to say, hey, Democratic Party, if you're trying to flip another district in Wisconsin, maybe put some money here again.
Yep, here's to hoping. I don't know. I don't know what their focus. I don't know what their main focus is on. It looks like they might be focusing a lot on Georgia.
They focused a lot on Georgia, going into it, like because like me and Alex were also talking about, like they kind of just left Mandela Barnes to sink and swim on his own.
Yeah, they did.
Whereas you had Biden spent the last week really campaigning in Florida, which was a fucking disaster. Kamala Harris was like in California campaigning for the LA mayoral race, which it seems like an odd use of resources to me.
Isn't like the?
I think the candidate she endorsed lost too. It was like it was two Democrats, but it was like a billionaire Democrat versus a community organizer.
Yeah, and did the community organizer win?
No.
Oh.
Sounds
like LA.
No. And like the community organizer was the one who had Kamala Harris campaigning for her, and it failed. They put a lot of resources into winning Pennsylvania, which did pan out. But like in a race this close, it was winnable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the shame, is that like when it's this close, like they're actually both winnable. And this race, honestly, a lot of these races, they kind of come down to the independents and what
they do. And it came down to the economy. And like, I don't get why, like they went really hard on Ron Johnson for like the election stuff, but they didn't even really they didn't attack Ron Johnson. They went after him for the abortion stuff. But like make an economic argument against Ron Johnson. Say, the infrastructure bill that Joe Biden passed is already bringing money and jobs to Wisconsin. Ron Johnson voted against that bill because Ron Johnson doesn't want to bring money and jobs to Wisconsin.
No, they don't want to bring in when it's
like make that the message.
Yeah,
make it like, here is a bill that is like right now has already brought money to like Milwaukee to like rebuild Milwaukee's fucked up streets. It's already being spent in Kenosha on like new projects that are gonna bring a lot of money into the state. And Ron Johnson voted against that bill.
Yeah.
Fucking hit him over the head with that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's a really smart thing to do. They just have to like be able to like prove that like that they're gonna do that shit. That like that's what. Yeah, that's because what it comes down to too is like what the demographic they're trying to get at, like that they're trying to mobilize to get to them. It was the same demographic that like was gonna vote for Ron Johnson no matter what. Like that's what they're trying to fish for with that same method of like, I know how much a gallon of milk costs and like, but I actually am going to bring the jobs here. Like they're trying to appeal that to them as opposed to like telling the people who they need in Milwaukee, where like Mandela Barnes came from. They need them to come out and he needs to appeal to them and show them that like, yes, for sure. This time Democrats are going to get you out. This happened in 2016 too. When like, yeah, Milwaukee did not come out for Hillary Clinton. They came out for Hillary Clinton in the primaries, but when it came down to the general election, they did not.
Yeah. Yeah. Turnout was, I think we talked about this before the stream, but turnout was down by almost 50,000 votes in Milwaukee.
Yes.
And that's in a race that was decided by like less than 30,000 votes. There's your entire margin of victory.
You have to appeal to them. You have to appeal that bit. You have to get Milwaukee out and get it really excited because that will get the numbers out. That will not have you win, but win decisively. And to do that, you have to appeal. You have to appeal.
And you don't even have to talk about the money. Just be like, hey, aren't you tired of your roads fucking sucking? Joe Biden and the Democrats just passed like the biggest like, hey, let's just improve these fucking roads bill in the history of the United States. But Ron Johnson didn't want any piece of that.
Yeah, he'd only want that if it was under Republican president.
Yeah,
that's the only way that they'd appeal.
He put partisan politics over the economic health of Wisconsin.
Yeah, but the thing is though is that they just had to have a message like that, but that can go like to the urban areas and all over the country and all over the state. I think a jobs program is also a great idea too to start like throwing that out. Yeah, like I think having that.
That was the entire point of the infrastructure bill. Because that was their real inflation counter. If you listen to that, of like let's get like actual jobs going here.
Yeah, that's actually rebuild, put money in schools and like rebuild schools and build public hospitals. Actually pump up some of these industries we're going to need in the future, like for a future pandemic, for example, considering how well our system handled the last pandemic, maybe we should prepare for the next one a little bit better.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot.
Right. Well, and that's another thing that a lot of these specifically Republican governors are getting hit on they refuse to expand Medicaid just for no other reason than to spite the Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
They refused to expand, which only hurt. It was money that had already been approved. It was money on the table, and they refused to take it. Scott Walker refused to take that money. And then all of these Republican governors that hadn't taken Medicaid money, and all of a sudden the pandemic hits, and they're fucking broke. And people are like, yeah, see, if you had taken the money, that money would be there for you to help the people of your state through a pandemic. But you didn't, so it isn't.
I can't take money from no feds. It's bad luck.
And I think the Republicans know how badly they fucked up too. They know that this should have been an overwhelming. I was browsing r/conservative today, because I like to keep apprised uh, of what conservative circles are saying. And honestly, Killian, I have never seen a more like clear-eyed and morose and like dejected attitude from that subreddit. That subreddit is usually pretty gung-ho. They're a fairly pro-MAGA space. But when I looked over there today, all the top posts were like, yeah, Trump needs to go. They're all backing DeSantis now because he flipped Miami.
Yeah, those are probably a bunch of little douchebags who will like watch Breaking Points and love soccer and like I know.
No, I'm saying normally they like literally a month ago they were a pro-Trump space, but now they're looking at the results and seeing that like Trump picked candidates are losing House races all over the country,
and they're jumping on the winning ship. No, this sounds like Sagar and Jetty. Like that's what I'm saying. Like this sounds like this is a person that they listen to and like
right.
They
but if that leads to like, yeah, and they're even, you know, it's like they're saying like, oh yeah, maybe we should have an actual platform for the first time since 2016. Maybe we as a national party should have a platform. Inflation was the biggest issue, but the Republicans haven't put out a plan to deal with inflation. And that's really because their plan to deal with inflation is just the exact same as the Democrats' plan.
Yeah, no, it is the exact same plan, and they can't
austerity measures leading to high unemployment, leading to inflation falling.
And they can't be competitive with the other party with that because the public does not like that.
Yeah,
they just have to be like, they just have to lie and just be like, I'm gonna fight the banks, and and anyone who's actually gonna fight fight them on that is like gonna get shot in the head, and
yeah,
like, so yeah, another fun thing to wait for the next president. Well, the last thing I want to bring up, since we have a couple minutes, I want to get out of here soon.
Yeah, same.
What kind of, I guess I want to ask, like, what do you think, how do you think this sets up the 2024 election, since we're talking about DeSantis and everything?
So like, if I'm dreamcasting this, I mean, I don't want Biden to run. I really don't. I think he's going to
lose. He's going to lose.
Well, if Biden wins, our only hope is there is a scenario where Trump runs and DeSantis runs. DeSantis wins, and then Trump goes full nuclear and runs as an independent, forms a new MAGA party.
You're taking
Teddy Roosevelt style.
Sounds like you're taking like the 18% bet here. That's what it sounds like to me, Tim. Like, is that you're?
Well, I'm saying that if Biden runs, I'm saying I don't want Biden to run. I want us to find a good Democratic candidate who can beat DeSantis or Trump.
I don't think.
But if Biden runs, especially, and the thing is that if Biden runs, he kind of has to run unopposed. Like, I hate Biden, I do, but like, I don't know, like a Democratic primary where like the sitting president has to like duke it out state by state with, you know, we don't have anybody. That's the other thing. Like, who's going to run against him if Pete Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, they're just younger versions of Joe Biden.
Yeah. Like younger versions that like, oh God, yeah, that still aren't charismatic.
like we still don't, like Bernie is a non-starter. No. And so we don't have anyone in the progressive wing of the party who's like a serious national candidate.
No, you don't have anyone in the progressive there, period. Like,
it's kind of the same problem real large that we have in Wisconsin, where like Wisconsin just hasn't produced any like actual Democratic talent in the past like 20 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're kind of driftless, and if Joe Biden runs again, we're gonna need a like massive Republican civil war to pull out the presidency.
Yeah, but I was kind of expecting like a Republican civil war in 2016, and that did not amass. Like they all
coalesced behind. I mean, that's because the Republicans showed themselves to be spineless pussies with no moral background.
Oh, dude, yeah, of course.
Every single one of them, every single one of them folded. No, I'm talking about the Republicans.
I know. I'm saying the Democrats are like, yeah, they're like Democrats. Of course they're immoral pieces of shit. Like, yeah, of course they're gonna like that's what both of these parties are.
When Mitt Romney kissed the ring because he wanted to be Secretary of State, that was truly pathetic.
Yeah, yeah, but and I'm sure he was thinking about that when he voted for impeachment too.
That was truly a shameful moment for Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm fingers crossed for a Republican Civil War.
Well, I am seeing a lot of Democrats losing. I do see a lot of Democrats losing a lot of support. That's kind of what I am seeing in the future too. Like I am seeing a lot of like people are going to get more and more sick of Joe Biden and just kind of want him gone, regardless of like who is up there. Like even if it's DeSantis, or if Tulsi Gabbard wants to like throw some shit up there, like hey, you might want to start like throwing some shit out there about Tulsi Gabbard, having her like as an independent throwing some Republican votes in there or something. So that's a possibility. There's a lot of things that can happen. But I am seeing the trend I'm seeing so far is like Democrats losing.
Well, except the thing is that like, again, this should have been a red wave. By all indications, this should have been a red wave. With how unpopular Biden is, they should have lost the House by way more. They should have lost the Senate. Period. Which it doesn't look like they're,
They might. I mean,
they might. They still might.
They still might.
But given every single indicator, because like again, most presidents lose. Congress flips under most presidents.
Right. No, 1 second.
All right.
All right. Let's wrap this up.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, we got to get out of here. But yeah, we just wanted to hop on and share our thoughts.
Thoughts and feelings and emotions about the future prosperity of the working wing.
Yes. It's bleak. It's going to be bleak, but we will be here breaking it down and sharing our perspective, come what may. All right, I think that's all for us. So, shout out to James Kuhnke,
Jennifer Munch, Working Wing logo.
Working Wing logo. What up? Yeah. Check them out. They're great. Until next time, keep working.
Keep on working.